Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Welcome back, everyone. I am so humbled and grateful today to be talking to my yoga idol and huge mentor of mine, Tara Stiles, is here in Wonderland. And you know Tara, I'm sure, if you read my blog, because I mention her often. She is a fellow Midwesterner who lives in New York City and travels the world teaching people about the amazingness of yoga and how to truly find your ease in the challenges both on and off the yoga mat. Her videos with recipe videos and blogs and her knitted hats that are so amazing are all wonderful, and I link to them all the time, and I'll have them all below. But she's so passionate about everything that she does, and it really bleeds into all of her different projects, from her clothing line with Reebok to her books to her videos, and I just respect and connect with her so much, truly. So I'm thrilled today to be able to have a conversation with her. Thanks for stopping by the Wellness Wonderland, Tara.
Oh my goodness. Thanks so much for having me to the Wellness Wonderland. I'm really happy to be here.
Yay.
You're amazing.
Okay, cool. Well, I have a lot I want to ask you, but I would love to zoom the lens back a little bit and talk about how you found your way to yoga. I've heard before that you've talked about how you used to meditate with the trees outside as a kid, and I can relate to that like so much. So how did you get to your version of Yoga Wonderland?
Cool. I mean, I think everybody has, yoga and meditation and all of these ways and tools and ability to connect inside of us, from the get-go. So I think, when I'm just sharing my experiences of being a kid and being in the woods and literally just going out to the woods and sitting down in nature and, doing things that looked very similar to what I learned later in yoga classes and different healing art forms, as all of these things, it really just reminds us that it really is inside, and it really is, something that's, just as pure as all of the elements, earth, air, water, fire, and, being able to connect with our intuition and creativity. So yeah, all my earliest memories are literally, existing in the world and sort of taking everything in around me. I grew up in the woods and, lots of land and trees and, magical forests and things like that. And I was always, playing in nature and very connected to nature. And I remember these specific moments where I would literally just be really quiet and sitting down either next to a tree or in a tree or next to we had this creek behind our house, and I would start to close my eyes and breathe, and I would see all of these, very sort of bright, neon but non-abrasive colors kind of swirling around, and I just thought, this is like what happens,
Yeah.
So I'd go back and I'd be like, Mom, Dad, we're all connected and there's all these colors and the trees and we're all here to help each other and we all have to find our own ways to do that. And they're like, what are you talking about, you crazy girl? Like, don't talk about seeing things that aren't there. So I thought, okay, I don't think that I'm crazy, but I think this is just what happens when you actually sort of quiet down our minds. Even as a kid, you're thinking about, worries about, what's my mom thinking, or am I in trouble, or, what can I get away with? So, I think kids can get stressed out too. But I noticed for me, when all those thoughts would sort of dissolve and clear, I would come back to this place where I was seeing all of these really radiant colors. And it wasn't until much later I actually learned what the colors were. I met Dr. Rudy Tanzi, who's friends with Deepak at Deepak's conferences, Sages and Scientists. And I remember seeing him on stage talking about his work with the brain and meditation, and saying, I think he knows about these colors and I think he can, talk to me about it. So of course, everything comes back full circle. A second later, I got a slip of paper from the woman who was organizing the event saying, you're riding in the taxi with Rudy to go to the airport. And I was like, great, I'll have like an hour to talk to him. So that was like our mutual, we got room together in the car. So we became friends, and he always talks about, his work and his work with Deepak and how all of these seeing colors is, can be defined as synesthesia, but also it's just what happens when you meditate, and it's sort of the universe sort of, coming out and telling you what's going on. So I was
wow, that's so cool.
So it was really neat to connect with somebody in the science community about what that is, and also somebody in the science community that's not going to break it down in a very dry way of, well, here's science and then here's sort of spirituality, like somebody that really has a great sort of understanding and excitement about all of the worlds together and not being so divisive and separate.
I love that. That's so cool. So you came from, living in this place where you were with like the magical forest, and now you're in New York City where it's so fast paced. But how do you stay grounded in such a fast moving place?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think, I grew up doing ballet as well, and I was always excited about being around people. I mean, I think, nature and people, and I just really felt that life is about helping and connecting. And, I always felt most alive and connected when I was around other people, either, for when I was a little kid, it was about sharing dance and the love of that and making people happy through that. And then, when I learned more about sharing yoga, it became about that as well. But so for me, I've never felt super overwhelmed around a lot of people. And I think, just having the studio in New York is a very grounding thing for me. I've gone through phases where I'm like, I'm leaving New York. I'm, going to move to California and live by the beach. But I was like, I'd be really lonely there. I think, anywhere I go, I love having this, community of people that really come together and, practice, and, we can see each other grow and we can see each other progress and, share with each other, our successes and failures. And it really is this whole, sort of interconnected experience of, just very positive and happy. And, Strala is all about radiating light. And I think I've sort of, spent my life so far figuring out what all of those things in the woods when I was a little kid are, and how they're connected to everybody, and how I can, maybe be of use in the world through helping people reconnect with all of that stuff that's inside. So that just really keeps me going every day. I mean, it doesn't matter, where I am or who I'm around, but it is that connection of being around people. And for me, I really am comfortable when I'm around people. So that's good.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that so much. And my mom always told me that, some people get their energy from being around people, and some people get their energy from being alone. It's like a personality type thing. And I'm the same way. Being around people really fills me up. So I think that's awesome. Aww. So speaking of kind of your early beginnings and your start, so you had a career as a model, right? And
yeah, sort of, kind of.
I always love seeing your photos on Instagram of your like old modeling career. Could you talk to us a little bit about like anything you learned from that experience?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was so naive as a kid growing up. I mean, I sort of talk about, my early little kid days as Ellie Mae Clampett, and we were sort of like the Beverly Hillbillies, but in the hillbilly part of the world. So, I saw magazines and I had no idea how the people got there in them, and let alone knowing that I was qualified to do any of this kind of work. And I grew up doing ballet, and a little bit after high school, a photographer came up to me after the show and said, hey, I want to take you to this agency in Chicago. And it was called Ari at the time, and now it's Ford. And I said, well, what are you talking about? Like, I saw these, models at that time in magazines that were, a lot taller than me or looked different. I didn't really see myself in that world at all. I didn't really identify with that kind of a thing. So I just didn't think it was an option for me at all. So I went in and, I remember meeting with the owner of the agency, and I remember just being so connected to her and what she's built with her own business, and how she was, just being nice to all of these girls coming through, and she really, sort of became a mentor and a friend to me. And I remember wanting to be her more than wanting to be a model. Yeah. But she told me I was qualified to do this job, and I said okay. So I went out, and it was, for me, I don't have any horror stories with that whole world. I saw it as like an extreme great gift, and I got to meet a lot of amazing people, and the work for me, for whatever reason, I think just because I've always been a pretty grounded person in my, and how I feel about my body and all of that, I just thought it was really fun. and,
Yeah.
and, being a dancer, I've always been comfortable in my own skin and, just playing around with, fashion and the looks and just how you can perform differently. And, I was always comfortable sort of transforming and sort of being a different character through dance. And I just saw it as this really fun extension of that. So for me, it was just this amazing opportunity to sort of get to do a job that was really easy. It didn't take much time, and I sort of quickly realized that this was a great opportunity to buy me a nice amount of time where I was able to pay bills and sort of figure out what I wanted to do, when I grew up.
Yeah, I love that.
I was excited.
Yeah, I love that. I know I just watched this video from Marie Forleo that resonated with me so much. She talks about your bridge job, and for you, it kind of sounds like modeling was that, which is that job that you do to, kind of pay the bills while you figure out your passion. And I can relate to that so much. So that's such a cool perspective.
Sure, yeah. I just feel really lucky to have done it, and all the friends that I've made, and how it was able to transition into my work now. And I think everything always obviously happens for a reason, and yeah, so just lucky all around.
Oh, for sure. So then after that, or was it during that, when did you actually find yoga?
Sure. So right after high school, I was in a dance conservatory program, which, really shaped, and that's sort of the beginning of my real, sort of artistic adulthood and the whole thing. And I was deciding, I thought I was going to be, a contemporary dancer for the rest of my life, and like, dance is it for me, and, all of this kind of thing. And in the dance program, my ballet teacher, Rory Foster, who was with American Ballet Theater, was really into yoga, and I didn't know this was such another great, really surprise and gift, and everything happening for a reason, because there's not very many, at least at that time, dancers that were also into yoga. So now it's I think it's more popular, but so he brought in a really great instructor to lead us in classes once a week, and I remember just seeing this really happy guy at the front of the room every Friday and saying, oh my gosh, like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I don't know how I'm going to be involved, but I really want to be involved. And I just want to learn everything for myself and help people with this. So Rory really saw my interest, and, he came to the dressing room one day and he knocked on the door and he gave me Autobiography of a Yogi, and he's like, this is my teacher. And, so all of these things just started to happen and come into my life. And, he'd bring me into the office and say, what do you want to do? And, I thought that, the right answer was, oh, of course I want to dance and I'm going to do this. And he's like, well, you're getting pulled into the modeling world. And I was like, yeah, it's a great opportunity, but I have to sort of, figure out what I want to do. And I just kept pursuing yoga and kept learning a bunch of different styles, and got into Reiki and some healing art forms and shiatsu. And it was, this was like in the late 90s, so it was quite different then. The whole teacher training machine wasn't really in full effect. And so I would kind of go around and study with a bunch of different people. And I came to New York, and I just started sharing yoga with friends that had, problems with stress or back pain, or on photo shoots, there'd be all this downtime, and people would say, oh, I'm like hungover. I'd be like, oh, here's something you can do. Yeah. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, isn't yoga about Hinduism? I'm like, well, not, that doesn't have to be. And, Hindus do yoga because it's a good idea, Right. So I just started learning about, especially in New York, all of these misconceptions about yoga, and how all of the schools, because growing up in the ballet world, there's, so many different schools of dance, and they all sort of go together in a certain way. And then I was noticing all of the newer schools of yoga, and how that they didn't quite go together in a certain way. And either you belonged here or you belonged there, and this was your lineage or that was your lineage. And I said, okay, that's great if you're involved in that, and that really resonates. But, I was really meeting people that either went to a class once or heard something about yoga, or didn't do it because they thought it was something else, or just a pile of stuff around it, like a pile of just, misconceptions, really. So I sort of saw an opportunity to come in and be my, sort of easygoing Midwestern self and say, hey, like, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
So I just started playing around with that really casually, just teaching friends, in any sort of setting I could find. And I started leading classes in Central Park. And, one thing started leading to another. I used to model for some health magazines, and I started writing for some of them, like columns on yoga, when that really wasn't happening at all. And a friend of mine worked for the Huffington Post. This was way before like health bloggers even like were around. It was like the beginning of 2007 and 8, and convinced them to give me a weekly column that was the splash page of anything I wanted to write about yoga and health. And I started writing these things like "Help, I'm Addicted to Facebook," 10 yoga moves that can help you cure your social media addiction, and and things just started to become really popular really quickly. The blog on Huffington Post was the most viewed blog on Huffington Post ever, more than their political blogs. And Ariana called my cell phone, was like, "Congratulations, Tara." And I'm like, okay, maybe there's an opportunity here, and maybe there's an opening to actually help and connect with people, since people were connecting to this, sort of easier going approach. So, I just kept following my interests, and I didn't really have a plan in the beginning. I was making YouTube videos and, sort of just putting things up and out that I thought could help people connect and help myself connect, really, 'cause I feel like you can't really give what you don't have.
Yes.
So I was, just kept going with that. Started a studio, and at the time, my boyfriend's apartment. He let me use his living room, one class a day kind of thing. I was like, okay, I kind of like having this community of people around. And at that time, I convinced a publishing company to do a yoga book with me. And they're like, nobody buys yoga books. And I was like, you just wait. It's going to come back, and this isn't going to be just me, but yoga is going to become this, fun thing that people actually want to do again, or maybe for the first time. So that went well. And then, things just started to happen really quickly. And I think it was just because it was, coming from an authentic place for me, and also, connecting with people in a way that I think people wanted to connect. And so I just, feel really lucky that I get to go along for the ride at this point.
Wow, that's such an amazing story. I love, it's such a great example too, for people to take away from this, that, you don't really have to worry about, you become this amazing public figure in the health and wellness and yoga world and just in general. But really it all started of you were sharing a message and you were helping people, and the world just supported that, like one thing after the next. And I think that's a really cool thing for people to remember, not really focusing on how to get seen, but just doing good work and giving, and then the rest will just come.
Sure, of course. I mean, I never, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. I still don't have investors. Like this has all come from, just my own, will and ambition, and wanting to help people. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I get a lot of, friends and messages, and everybody wants to know, well, now it's, really popular to have your own brand and to have, all of this stuff that people think that they need to go along with this, and this, this formula now of, gathering a large social media following and then translating that into this, and people think that there's this box to fit in, and it's really not true. I mean, you can try to fit in that box, but you may be able to have a nice package at the end of the day, but it may not even be the package that you want, Right. So I think it's, at least my experience has been, one of just following my interests and seeing where that ended up, and just being interested in, for me, it was helping people connect with themselves so they can expand into the world. And, if that landed me a job as a staff writer in a magazine, and that's, led to my, the sort of end point of my reach and ability to help people, then that was fine with me. I really thought I would just work in a magazine, So I'm happy to get to, sort of do what I get to do now. I feel incredibly lucky. But I don't think it's something that we can, plan for ourselves necessarily.
For sure, yeah. So talking a little bit about teaching yoga, and as a teacher, and this is something you talk about a lot, can you get into finding the ease and the importance of finding the ease in each posture, and kind of what you mean by that, and then also off the mat too? Sure.
Well, growing up my entire life, I've been a mover. So from just being a little kid, experimenting, rolling around with my body, to, I've been doing ballet since I was 3, just understanding how how the body works and what the body needs to do, and sort of the emotional capacity behind that, and the performance capacity behind that with dance, and then taking yoga classes and seeing the the need for being safe in our bodies. But I think the misconception that I was starting to see when I moved to New York, and the sort of hyper focus on posture and position and alignment to get deeper into poses was just not connecting with me at all. I saw, of course, with ballet, if you're going to do 32 fouettes, your hip needs to be rotated outward, and you have to have a certain thing going on in your body to make that happen. But, if you're in a warrior two, and, you can have your back toes turn in so you get the hip opener and open your arms out to the sides, but you don't need to be clenching and outwardly rotating and inwardly spiraling. And, our bones don't spiral. It's like a lot of this alignment stuff is sort of, made up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like growing
spiraling.
up. It's like our bodies, there's no spirals in our bodies.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute,
funny.
this isn't true. So, I think a lot of this is just, everybody has to find what they connect with, but really helping people in a very clear, concise way, directing them through an open structure of movement to keep them safe, but also leaving that freedom for ease and exploration. I've just found it's a very unique approach with yoga. It's actually very different from, a traditional Iyengar or Hatha class where you're holding a pose for, 5 breaths and really, making sure your eyeballs are in the specific place, and everything is, can be measured with a measuring stick. But I've just found, in life that people don't want to be measured with a measuring stick, and it doesn't really feel good.
Right.
So yeah, it has been very, very different to have this approach of ease. Especially I think a lot of traditional yoga is about getting deeper and getting further, and deeper is better. And, there's a beginners and there's an advanced. And, I sort of find that very incorrect in so many ways, and very off-putting for so many people, and just very, I don't know, it's made me sort of reevaluate what the potential of yoga is, and how it really, if it really does exist inside all of us, why do we all need to look the same when we do it? So it's sort of been more of a philosophical question of, what does ease mean for each person, and how can I help people find that ease and find that freedom that comes from when you have ease. So it's sort of been my quest in a way to, to choreograph movement and to have ways that people can relax into positions, and have my language be very, sort of simple and clear, where I'm not putting my own, emotional experience onto people. I'm more giving them, open words that they can find their own space within, and, an open structure where they can, have something to do that's going to keep them very safe and have a great experience, but also is going to encourage them to be, easy in their bodies and easy in their minds. So, and I find that people just, it's not for 100% of people. Definitely people come to Strala, around the world and in New York, and they say, well, I want you to tell me where to put my foot. And I said, okay, like there's places you can go for that, but I'll help guide you to find, your own way. And you are going to have this very, structured experience that has ease and openness in it. But I do find it's worth having that, 0.2% of people say this isn't for me, to have like the 99% of people say, oh my gosh, like I feel so free, I feel so easy. And, it's just not about doing a yoga pose. It's about, feeling that in your life, and you leave and you feel, expansive, and you feel like you're radiating light. And, I've really seen these people able to connect with those same things that I was, feeling so, almost overly emotional as a kid connecting with. And, it's, for me, that's worth it. It's not about, having the, carrying on a tradition of, of certain styles of yoga. It's more about finding that ease and that freedom in my own life, so I can help other people find it as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that quote, you can't be everything to everybody, but you're everything to most people, and definitely me.
Oh, you're so sweet. But I think it is, it's not just, I think that's the great thing about finding these, a friend of mine in LA, he says he was not a yoga person at all. He was a runner. And I was like, you got to come. So finally he came, and after a few times, he's like, oh, it's like math. You can come to the same answer by many different many different ways. And he's sort of equating the ease and the freedom and all the things that we lead as finding your own way to your own answer, which is, I think, kind of cool too.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of yoga here, I would love for you've got this great video vlog I watched like a super long time ago, but you talk about the connection and your thoughts between yoga and weight loss. And I really love that. I think, and I've heard you talk also about not weighing yourself and that connection, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah, I remember when I first started writing about this stuff and blogging about it, it was almost either, the magazines love weight loss and yoga, and then you have the yoga community saying, oh my God, like that's, terrible, like yoga's not about the body, so I said, I think there's, yoga is about everything, it's about the body, the mind, the spirit, and sort of healing that, and we can't hide in our yoga classes. I mean, we can choose to do whatever we want, but I think it's a disservice to say, I'm not my body, I'm my spirit, and I'm greater than. But we have to live in this body our whole lives, and
right.
It can be a great experience, and it can be a healthy and when our bodies are healthy, we're able to connect better, we're able to do our passions better, we're able to feel better. Our bodies aren't superficial. So I think there was this, for me, I had to find out how to communicate for myself, and also if I was going to give anything, that that being healthy is not a superficial vanity pursuit. So I had to figure that out first, and then realize that it's purely about taking care of ourselves. And the neat thing, I mean, I love all this science cool stuff because it really just helps people get a way in. But meeting Deepak and now his good friend Rudy Tanzi, and how they talk about ease isn't necessarily the yoga tradition of being perfect in a pose. So if you have ease in your body and in your mind, your intuition, which is suspiciously located exactly where your third eye is, in your brain. The insula area of your brain is actually it's getting turned on. So all of these areas of our brain and our well-being are getting us more into the mood of actually treating ourselves better. So if you're able to practice yoga and meditation in an easygoing way and turn these areas on, you're going to leave your class, you're going to leave your practice, and you're going to actually want to, go prepare a meal for yourself, or, look at your life and see about the habits and the blocks that are holding you back from being healthy, not just from a what to eat perspective, but how you're eating and how your psychology is around food, and, what your friend groups are like around food, and what your habits are, and your social life is. And, it's neat to sort of know this stuff and to, be teaching and leading ease to people. And they come in, they say, oh, I want to lose weight. What do I do? I just say, okay, just come for a week and just see what happens. And 100% of the time, they always say, I switched from bacon to carrots, or I just started wanting to eat more greens, or it's so weird, I leave here and I want to go and have a smoothie.
Yeah.
So it's really neat just to see people find that for themselves in so many ways. And and food is the most important thing with health. I mean, it's great to move our bodies and to to have that blood flow and that practice with yoga and to get strong and have all those ways that we connect. But if you leave and you eat crap and don't feel good about yourself, it's not going to match up. So yeah, I think it's neat. And then just knowing that it's not about, being a perfect, whatever perfection is to you. I mean, I've seen plenty of people that are very, controlled and rigid and strict and doing everything, quote unquote, perfectly in their food lives, and they still get sick, they get terrible illnesses, they get colds, and it has to come from a place that feels good for you. And I think that there's a big secret in there, and a big sort of unlocking moment for people when they find that ease in their lives, that to sort of loosen up a bit and say, it's not just, there's no rules, it's not just 80-20, or it's not like, oh, I'm gonna eat kale Monday through Friday and then binge on the weekends, or it's it's not about necessarily being a vegan or about being a vegetarian. It's about finding those things that actually do work for you. So actually making your own rules and believing that you can, and believing that trusting your intuition when you're connected to it will actually lead to a healthy, capable life. So I think that's for me, that's what gets me really excited, because it's, it's the same idea of there's structure, but there's so much open space within that where people, diets don't work because it's just another rule-based system of, as soon as you have a rule, you want to break it. I mean, that's the one thing you want to do. Like, I can't have cake. That's all I want today. Why do I want cake all day?
Yeah.
So those kind of things of just, really reminding people that if they have this practice of ease, they can become more easeful in everything they do, and, just start becoming capable in their lives. And I know for me, it's worked, and I've seen, a big, transformation in my own psychology and life, and with everything with this stuff. So, and, I get to meet so many people now around the world that have had, so many different, from extreme weight loss. There was a couple that came in a couple weeks ago from Ohio, and they came in, they were so excited, and they said, collectively, we've lost over 500 pounds by doing, your videos. And it's not that I'm doing these cardio blast, weight loss, burn 1,000 calories in 5 minutes videos. It's about really moving your body and being connected to yourself. So, of course you're going to get a workout. Like, I'm not saying that it's not a workout, but it's the best kind of workout. And then they feel better. So they started eating better. And that's sort of the winning combination, I think.
Yeah. Finding the ease in your diet and in your life and on the yoga mat's way cool. So, your other hobby, in addition to yoga, is knitting, and I love seeing all of your knitting when you travel. So how did you get into knitting? Is that something that you did as a kid, or is that something you found more recently?
Oh my gosh. Well, not as a kid. Both of my grandmothers are amazing quilt people, and they can make anything. So it's always sort of been in my family to be really, sort of creative and making things all the time. And they always sort of made fun of me as this, ballet dancer / city girl, always on the go. I never cooked when I was a kid. I never participated in quilt making and all this stuff. So now that I'm knitting, they're like, oh, okay, she's coming back around. But, when I wrote my first book, it was the first time writing a book. So it was this, sort of intense, long process and whatever. I was, sort of overwhelmed and trying to find my groove within that. So I looked for an outlet besides yoga, just something to do to sort of unwind. That's that counterbalance the time that I was spending at the computer. And I walked by this store in Soho called Wool and the Gang, and it was around Christmas time. And they just had the most bright colors in the window. It looked like cotton candy. And it reminded me of the colors that I saw when I was a little kid. And there were these, beautiful fuchsias and sort of amazing mint green turquoises and just these giant fluffy balls of yarn. And then inside there was all these, beautiful candles and these, gorgeous girls in there just knitting. And they were inviting you in to knit. And it was like Santa's workshop. I was like,
so
this is
cool.
amazing. I thought it was like a wonderland,
Yeah.
So I walked in, and they must have thought I was crazy, because I was just like, teach me everything I want to know. And it was sort of like the experience when I was in my first yoga class. I was like, this is so cool. I was so excited about it. So I became just a fan of the store, and I bought one of their kits and just went home and started going to town and quickly became addicted to it. And then when I started traveling more, I thought this was this really fun thing to do on the airplane. And, when I was connected to more people online and people started seeing these, I said, well, here's something else I can share and make people happy. So I just started, making these hats on the airplane and then giving them away in my newsletters, and sometimes just to strangers or people I would meet. And, it just became this really fun way to keep people's minds and brains warm during the colder months. So it's sort of become this, spiritual, endeavor of mine as well. But it's, it's sweet and it's fun. It makes me feel happy. So,
so cool. I love it. Okay, so now I want to get personal with you. You ready for it?
Sure. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so this is my favorite question to ask in the world. And I think it'll give us a really good glimpse of Tara Stiles as a person. So could you walk us through your morning routines? Any specifics to start your day and why that's important for how the rest of your day goes? Maybe the first 3 things you do.
Oh, sure. Gosh, this is good. So I'm definitely not up like a perfect, I wake up and I meditate for 5 minutes. and then I drink my glass of hot water with lemon. Like I kind of wish like I'm still, a work in progress. And I think part of the reason why I try to put out information to other people is to remind myself to do the same. But yeah, I sort of, I wake up and, I'm spoiled when I'm in New York. The studio is, a couple blocks from my house. So I more or less wake up and sort of take a shower and then head over there for the morning class. So that's sort of the Tuesday through Friday of my life. And, if it's not that day, if I'm somewhere else, I would wake up and, try to do a little bit of yoga in my hotel room or just in the morning in the apartment just to sort of roll around and do that. I'm not a big like first thing in the morning eater, but so I think after the class I would, now I've gotten really into smoothies and juices, all this stuff. So I would, my favorite thing at the moment is banana, spinach, and almond milk in the blender.
My favorite
like food.
Literally
it's your favorite too?
Yeah, just those exact things. Or coconut milk. I switch it up.
Oh, coconut milk. Yeah, that's great too. Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like it's just such good food, and it's just I feel like a super person when I drink and eat things like that. So yeah, that would be sort of the morning part of the day for sure.
That sounds awesome. So now walk us through the evening rituals. Like, what are kind of the last things you do in the evening to wind down?
Okay, well, if I love taking a bath. I think it's when I was a little kid, I didn't take my first shower until I went away to dance school because we just had bathtubs in our house.
That's so cool.
I remember like taking my little shower stuff to the little ballerina school and being like, what do I do? But so I think, for me especially, I don't do it every night, but I think after, a long day, or I'm trying to, when I get in these modes where I realize like, oh, okay, I have to take better care of myself, or, remind myself to do these things. It's definitely a hot bath. And then, reading something. I always have like, 10 books that I haven't popped open that I want to read, and just kind of going to bed. I used to be in this habit of watching reruns of Netflix shows, and it was probably one of the worst decisions that I've ever made because we get so sucked in. And we went through Cheers and then Frasier and Family Ties. It's embarrassing, and we kept going, and some of Coach. So
I've done that too.
Yeah. So I definitely, went down that sort of bad cycle of watching television before bed, and now I'm on the other end of it and sort of regaining that sort of peace of mind and clarity back. And I think sometimes you got to go down that road to realize that it's better on the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
So now I'm just winding it down with a bath and a good book and hopping into bed.
I love that. So, with your relationship and being in a relationship, what's the biggest thing you've learned from being married and your relationship with your husband?
Oh my gosh. Don't work together, ladies. And guys too. Yeah, I mean, that's, sort of the biggest thing that I learned. I started doing my thing, and he had his own companies, and he really liked doing what I was doing. And Mike grew up doing a lot of Tai Chi and movement, and he's a really great mover in his body, and really smart guy. And I said, hey, maybe you should come over and do this stuff with me. And we didn't really structure it for a long time. So, it was a lot of learning how to navigate within that, and learning, who belongs where, and who can best serve who where, and, how to just, I've always been a very independent person, and, almost dominating in certain aspects. And, I really learned a lot about like, sort of good parts of my personality and tendencies where I fall into. And I think just, setting these roles before you get into problems of, oh my gosh, okay, we have to take a step back and realize, who's doing what, and what I'm comfortable with having you do and what I'm not comfortable with having you do, and sort of defining those roles, I think, is important. I think a lot of, women in general now are becoming the ones who are really the, making the earning a great living, and also, becoming more powerful as people and as business owners. And, just learning that it's okay to have, your smart guy, that he can support you and he can just, be in the supporting role, and doesn't have to be the boss as well. So I think for me and for him as well, just navigating our way through that has been a learning process. And, yeah, it's interesting. It's tough, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely feels good to like be empowered yourself, you know, and know and not have to like depend too much on other people and be able to like keep those things separate.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's a good. I always tell my friends, if you're going to work together, make sure you keep acting like a company and define people's roles, and you can turn it off at night too. It can be because I'm the kind of person, I am so passionate about what I do. I can wake up at 6 in the morning, start working, go into my office, go to the studio, come back and work until midnight, and not have that communication with the person that I'm in a relationship with, and I can just see that going in a not good direction unless I sort of make time for that. So I think a lot of women are so passionate about their careers. It's sort of making time and setting priorities and having having that space for everything else as well, I think is important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, such good advice. So speaking of that, and like you do, so much cool stuff, how do you stay organized and make sure that you fully show up for all the different areas of your life? Do you have any like practical tips there?
Sure. Well, I think I've always done what I think is fun. I mean, I very, very rarely in my life, even when I was doing other kinds of work, it wasn't fun for me. So I think I've always been really careful not to pick projects that I'm not really excited about. So, and it's easy too. I think it was with the internet and, with whatever phase you are in your career, there's a million ways to fill your time. And, a lot of people, I think, can get into the trap of doing things that they think that they should be doing, or, building certain areas of their business where they think they should be doing without really asking themselves what's fun for me and what do I really love doing, because all of the things that I've chosen to fill my life doing and the projects are incredibly fun and I'm incredibly inspired by them. So I never show up and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to be here right now. This is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's such a drag, So if I ever sort of feel that way about an area of my life, I try to take a step back and, wonder if this is a partnership I still want to be in, or if there's something at the studio that I need to shuffle around to make better, if there's something in my own, mind or my own thinking that's sort of blocking that. And, but I think for me, it's not so much about, re-energizing myself. It's about making sure that the things that I'm spending my time doing are the things that I want to be spending my time doing. That way I just, it's a no-brainer. I don't have to think, okay, I have to be present right now. I have to like turn it on. I have to, be here for these people. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to be here. And it's, I've never felt like I was working because of that ever. So it doesn't, I think that's sort of the dangers of having this as a job, because, you can do it 24 hours a day because it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. It's a good problem to have.
So what are you doing right now in your life that you maybe are afraid of, but you're doing anyways?
Oh my gosh, so much stuff. Well, I've really started to, and it took a while to build this, but the Strala instructor training program, and I have a few really amazing mentors, and they've been, just really encouraging me for the last several years not to partner up too much with too many different brands and people, and sort of, I have this fear of becoming a race car driver person where I'm like, here's all of my people that I work with, and, who's underneath that and what's that mission. So, the last few years have been, really building Strala and the instructors really around the world, and sort of recognizing that it's not just, my class that, that people like, or my class that I like to do. And it really is this system of movement and this structure of ease, and all of my training with dance and choreography and with vocabulary of movement have been really intrinsically valuable, and putting all this together in a training program, and really just using these opportunities to go around the world and help instructors build their own businesses has been incredibly scary and incredibly rewarding, because it's just me deciding to show up in these places, and it's me wondering if people are going to like this in this certain city, and and it always works, and it's always really interesting and exciting. And now we're starting to open franchises with just empowering business owners that are interested in opening Stralas in their own cities. So that's been really scary. A lot of my friends and colleagues are like, well, how do you keep quality control and all of these sort of fear-based questions. And, how I've always seen that is, well, I deliver what I am able to deliver and keep the system really clear and clean and allow people, lots of freedom within that, allow the instructors freedom. I have no interest in creating, just
Cookie
clones of my
cutters.
cookie cutters or, more of a Bikram system where it's like, these are the poses that we're going to do. And, so finding that balance of structure and freedom. And so I can really actually empower people to create their own best businesses and their own best lives. And it's really great because I can only help so many people with my own yoga classes and with my own reach. And I really believe that, this is something that is going beyond what I can do myself. And, these other people are taking this and with their own background and their own experience, whether they're calling it, some people call it Strala, some people just do a training and bring a little bit more ease into whatever it is they do, whether it's a yoga class or a fitness class or spinning or, being a mom, So I think this is really my big chance to help, and I don't want to mess it up. So it's scary because I feel like all of these feelings I had when I was a little kid in the woods and how it goes beyond the individual. I think this is really, Strala is not about me. It's about radiating into the world. So that's sort of the intention with it. And it's really scary.
Wow. Well, that's so beautiful. And just to know that, you have that fear and you're doing it anyways. And even, I think that's great for people to hear and super inspiring.
Aww.
So my last big question that I have for you is cool. So as you know, the name of this podcast and my blog is The Wellness Wonderland. So when I offer that term to you, what does it mean to live in a wellness wonderland?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that. I mean, I think you're awesome, first of all. And I think we're connected for so many different reasons. But I think the whole, the idea of this wonderland is really, how I see that is this just magical place that you can create yourself. I mean, I think, it's not where you are, but it's sort of where you are. I think, you can be in New York and be stressed out. You can be in New York and be like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And, we can really rediscover things all the time. And, space is on the inside. It's not on the outside. And, as soon as you find the space on the inside, you open your eyes and you're like, wow, it really is pretty amazing out here. And look at all the beauty there is in the world and look at all the wonderful, things that's natural about us and that's natural about everything around us. And we don't need, possessions and stuff to make us happy. It's really about, this connection to nature and to beauty and to the connection to connection. And, so Wonderland for me is about, all of these sort of naturally occurring, emotions and feelings and colors and people and experiences and in a confined but expansive space. I think it's really this world, and I love that. I love that what you're doing is called that because it really just opens up the imagination for people to put whatever they want into it. All their favorite things.
Yes, yes, that's the secret. It's just a state of mind. You can be there whenever you want.
Yeah, that's cool.
So cool. Okay, well, let's finish with some quick fire questions. So just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Cool?
Sure.
All right. So, favorite color?
Right now, like this teal blue that's like the center of the universe color. I'm really into that.
Whoa, nice. That's deep for a favorite color. Favorite yoga pose? I'm like dying to ask you this.
Oh my gosh. Well, it depends on whatever I'm needing to like have in my body right now. I think I always come back to dancer pose. I think it's because it's so cliche. I was a dancer, but I just feel so open, and it's sort of this all-in-one. You're balanced, you're moving with ease in the balance, and you're opening your spine and your body, and sort of opening the everything that you can open into the world, but you're also standing really strong and firmly and rooted in yourself. So I think for me, dancer is sort of it.
Yeah, you're so beautiful in it too.
Yeah.
What is the biggest yoga misconception that you would like to clear up for people?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think, the biggest one that I hear the most often is it's about stretching and flexibility, and you have to be flexible in order to do it. But I always say, like, I meet these, a lot of guys, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible, I can't touch my toes. And I say, bend your knees, you can touch your toes.
Yeah.
Just bend your knees. Everybody can touch their toes, and they say, "Oh, I guess you're right." So once you realize it's not about being flexible. It's about creating space for yourself and feeling more connected. And I think everybody sort of knows it's not about being flexible, but you see the pictures of very flexible people doing things, and of course that's going to be a misconception. But I think that is sort of the most mainstream one that people have a misconception with.
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite day of the week?
Oh my gosh. I think Saturday when I'm in New York, because I call it Zion at Strala. It's like from the Matrix. Everybody has off work at the same time. And, every day is like really fun there. But it's just I lead this class at 11, and everybody just comes in a good mood, and they leave in a good mood. And it's like this super sweaty, party experience. And, a lot of like tourists come in on the weekends. And it's just this really nice day. And I really like Saturdays.
I'm going to have to come see you on a Saturday then.
Yeah, come on down.
What's your favorite hour of the day?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, I love the morning now. I never used to think that I love the morning, but I think 6:30, 7 a.m. is a nice time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm into that time too right now.
Awesome.
Favorite vegetable?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to go with broccoli. Well, when I was a little kid, I always loved broccoli too. I called them the little trees. But yeah, good stuff.
Good one. Favorite fruit?
Oh my goodness. Bananas.
Oh, they're so good. What's your number one health tip for people?
Gosh, I think just get interested in the kitchen. I think I think a misconception about being healthy is that, it's expensive, or you have to be this gourmet chef and you have to know all these things about tofu and soaking your beans overnight and all this really complicated stuff. And I think if you just start to get interested in your own kitchen and just explore and play around with things that you like, and it's not necessarily about all of the things that you think that you should be doing, but I think just getting interested is a great first step, and then from there it's just going to get hooked because it's so much fun.
For sure. What are you most excited about right now? What's next for you?
I'm excited about food, honestly. I have a book coming out, Make Your Own Rules Diet, next September. Yay!
So exciting.
So excited. I know. So yeah, and because I didn't go to chef school, all this stuff, and I really think it's just important to share. And I've been cooking, for a while now and learning from everybody, but all the recipes are just super simple, and they're really good, and they're informative, and they're recognizable. Like there's fun stuff like a healthy Wendy's Frosty, and
I love that one. You have a video of that.
Yeah, and a lot of newer ones I just explored around with, and I think it's just cool. I think it's good for just for myself to be okay, I've learned so much about food just from literally from experimenting and asking friends and learning things, and I think that's the best way to learn anything in life. It's you can just get in there and start doing it. It's if you're gonna go to culinary school and open your own restaurant, that's fantastic, but it's not necessary in order to cook for yourself. You don't need to have a bunch of letters after your name in order to make a really good meal for your friends. So I think and the book's all about all the same stuff about finding the ease and getting comfortable in the kitchen, and finding the ease in your body and your life, so you actually want to eat better. I think the problems with people and that I've had is times in my life where I'm not feeling connected to myself, I don't want to eat better because you want to keep the unconnected feeling going. So it's it's getting that going with easygoing yoga and easygoing meditation, and then keeping that going with the food, and then you've got a nice winning combination there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a killer combo. So speaking of food, what's your favorite meal you've eaten recently? Maybe in the last week or so?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm hooked on this. I'm hooked on these soups in the wintertime. So, you can basically throw anything together. I got back from India and Asia and super inspired by all these really yummy vegetarian spicy things. So I've just been playing around with different rice noodles and putting hot sauce and coconut milk and coconut oil and a little bit of soy sauce occasionally, and lots of different curry powders and peppers, and it never really comes out bad.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it comes out better than the other, but you can always like redefine the recipe. But I think in the winter time, just making these hearty soups, and it's so good with all the spices. You feel like you're gonna never get sick.
I love that. If you could have one superhero power for a day, what would you have?
Oh my gosh, I would love to teleport.
That would be nice, but you'd make less hats.
I'd make less hats. That's true. But I may have more time when I'm there and be able to do that. But yeah,
that's true.
I would make a little less hats. But yeah, it'd be neat. But I don't know. I like being on the airplane as well. It's like kind of my happy, quiet time in a weird way.
Oh, I love that. That was going to be my next question for you. What's your number one travel tip?
I think find something that you can do, I think, on the plane that's fun. I mean, for me, it's knitting or listening to music and knitting, or but I think it doesn't have to be this like, oh my gosh, I'm in this like terrible airplane, I have to be miserable, I have to act miserable, I have to make my eating habits be really bad, so I think it's finding something that's fun to do is really, really useful, whether it's a good book or, I think just having a plan before you get on there is a nice thing.
Finding the ease when you travel.
Find the ease when you travel, yeah.
I love that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Gosh. Oh, I think this is definitely from Deepak. I mean, it's the times where I've been over and doing yoga with him in the mornings, he's just full of these amazing one-liners. I mean, he's Deepak Chopra. I'm like, oh, it's real. Like, it just keeps coming out of you. It's like kind of amazing. Like, I'm kind of amazed that I get to be here, But no, I think, something that he said where, when you have an idea, do it. I think it's, sort of the broader universal realm. He said, when you have an idea, it's out there in the universe and it becomes a sort of open source idea. So somebody's going to do it. And I've seen that happen as well in my life, and, ideas that I've had that, they're good ideas. And there's something to be said about like, okay, it's out there at this point. But I think, more practical level, it's important to follow your inspiration, I think, pretty quickly and just say, okay, like, before it starts to fade, like maybe there's something there and how can I follow through?
I love that. What's your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh, I think Elf.
Oh, it's so good. It's so timely.
I love Elf.
So good.
It's so fun.
What's your favorite book?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's so hard. Gosh, that's so hard. Favorite book. I mean, I'm just going to have to be cheesy and say Siddhartha, I guess.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What about favorite song?
Favorite song? Oh my gosh. I guess it changes. I love playing like our playlists at Strahl are ridiculous. They're so like contemporary and fun and different. But I think For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield, It's Something Happened.
Yeah, it's me. I didn't exactly clear.
Exactly. I started to play that like the second song in, and people, because it's just like something happened.
For sure. I'm putting it on my playlist for my next yoga class.
Like, it's a total hit. You can't go wrong.
Yay. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, this has been a blast. Total dream come true talking with you, and you're just as down to earth and fabulous as you are in your videos and books. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Of course. Thank you so much for being amazing and everything you're doing. I'm so impressed and inspired.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.